Extend up to 30 minutes if we cannot finish it at 11:30. Kasi I have to be at sa school. Okay. Ilan na tayo? Their major blood group system, which is the RH blood group system. So aside, there are actually only two major blood group system. Can you hear me? Clear ako?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there are two major blood group system in humans. So we have first the ABO blood group system, and the second one is the RH blood group system. And other than these two major blood group systems, we have what we call your minor blood group systems as well as your miscellaneous blood group systems, which we are going to discuss separately. So you have to take note that hindi lang iisang blood group system ang nasa ating katawan. So there are actually more than 30 na currently, more than 30 blood group systems. So but we are only going to focus on the major blood group system, some minor blood group system, as well as some miscellaneous blood group system. So for today, I hope we can finish this, the RH blood group system. So we have here an introduction for this particular blood group system. This is considered, so your RH blood group system is considered as a highly complex, polymorphic, and the second most important blood group system after your ABO blood group system. Why second most important blood group system? Because it is considered your second most important blood group system class because your D antigen, which is one of the antigens of your RH blood group system, is considered as highly immunogenic. Okay, highly immunogenic, or your RH system antigens are considered as very immunogenic, meaning they are highly capable of eliciting an immune response. So I think naman you are already familiar with this particular term. Tama ba? You have encountered this one, immunogenic. The ability or the capability of an antigen to elicit an immune response, particularly the production of your antibodies. Am I right? You have learned this in your immunology.
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, so your RH refers now, when we say RH, this term refers now to a specific red blood cell antigen, particularly your D antigen, and also to a complex blood group system antigens, which is ngayon, currently we have over 50 different RH antigens na, okay? So while it is true that we have over 50 different RH antigens, we are only going to focus our discussion on the 5 principal RH antigens. Yan ay ang ating your big letter D antigen, your big letter C antigen, big letter E antigen, small letter C antigen, and your small letter E antigen. So those are the 5 principal antigens of the RH blood group system. Okay. Next, we have your RH antigens reside on proteins. You have to take note that when we are comparing your RH antigens with that of your ABO antigens, sabi natin that your ABO antigens are they are carbohydrate in nature because they are glycosylated. So my in their structure, your ABO antigens, dun sa structure nila, if you can recall, dun sa structure nila, may naka-attach na carbohydrates. In contrast, your RH antigens do not have in their structure attached carbohydrates. Okay? You have to remember that. So your RH antigens, sabi ko kanina, nabanggit ko na that your RH antigens, specifically your D antigen, big letter D antigen, is highly immunogenic. Okay, so once present class, this can elicit an immune response. So particularly antibody production, and pag merong production of your anti-D, big letter D, this can cause your acute hemolytic transfusion reaction, and as well as common result is yung tinatawag nating hemolytic disease of the fetus and newborn, your HDFN. Okay? Your HDFN, may separate chapter yan. Okay? So we have here terms such as your RH positive and RH negative. So these terms refer now to the presence or absence of the D red cell antigen. Kaya nga in other sources class, in other textbooks, kung mapapansin ninyo, mas appropriate na ginagamit nila is D positive and D negative. Kaya lang, most commonly ginagamit sa clinical setting is itong mga terms ito, yung RH positive and RH negative. Okay, when we say RH positive, that is the presence of the D antigen on the red cell. Pag RH negative, that is the absence of the D antigen on the red cell. Okay? Ha? So, class, you have also to take note that when we say RH negative or D negative, it doesn't mean that in the serum of that individual, if okay, so if there is a particular individual having a red cell which is RH negative or D negative, it doesn't mean na may anti-D siya sa kanyang serum. Why? Because the presence of your anti-D does not follow, the presence of your RH antibodies does not follow the Landsteiner's rule. Okay, are we clear? Clear ba tayo doon? It does not follow yung Landsteiner's rule which applies to your ABO antibodies. Kasi sabi natin, in your ABO antibodies, they are naturally occurring. So the presence of a certain antibody depends on the antigen which is lacking on the red cell. Diba? So when the D antigen is lacking on the red cell of an individual, it doesn't mean na magproduce siya ng anti-D. Why? Because the presence or the production of your RH antibodies only depends on the exposure to transfusion or pregnancy. Okay? Naintindihan nyo? Naintindihan nyo ba yung sinabi ko?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, your RH antibodies are produced only after, sabi ko kanina, your RH antibodies are produced only after the exposure to foreign red cells or individuals who have been pregnant. Okay, so that's why your RH antibodies class are considered, as your immune. You have to paki-add na lang sa notes ninyo. RH antibodies are considered as immune antibodies. In contrast, your ABO antibodies are considered as what? Your ABO antibodies are considered as what?
Naturally
Naturally
occurring
occurring
antibodies.
antibodies.
Okay. So, if you can recall, if nabasa nyo yung notes ninyo, chapter 1, sa Fundamentals of IS in Blood Banking, I put there naturally occurring versus immune antibodies. So, naturally occurring meaning antibodies are produced even without the exposure to transfusion or pregnancy. But in the case of your Rh antibodies, they are considered as immune antibodies because they are only the production of your Rh antibodies are only possible once the individual is being exposed to transfusion or pregnancy. Okay. Okay, let's have now the historical overview of the discovery of your D antigen. Okay, and the other other four principal Rh antigens. So in 1939 class, this was the discovery of your Rh blood group system, and it was first described by Dr. Levine and Stetson. So they have so these doctors, physicians, they describe an acute hemolytic transfusion reaction which is being manifested by one of their obstetrical patients. So yung OB patient nila class, it delivered a stillborn infant. Okay, so after the delivery of the infant, kailangan nung mother ng transfusion. So, ang napili na donor for the mother is the father. Okay? Yung asawa nung the partner, okay? The father of the infant. So, tawag dito, why is it that yung father yung napili? Because same sila ng blood type. Magkapareho yung blood type ng mother at saka yung father. So, nagtaka ngayon, after the transfusion, nagkaroon ngayon ng acute hemolytic transfusion reaction. So, nagtaka yung physicians, why is it na nagkaroon ng acute hemolytic transfusion reaction considering na ABO identical naman yung na-transfuse dun sa mother. So, ngayon, they investigated, tested the mother's serum with that of the father's red blood cells. Okay. So in that reaction, the mother's serum reacted at temperatures, specifically at 37 degrees Celsius and 20 degrees Celsius, when this is being reacted to the father's RBCs. Okay. So with that, may na-isolate sila na antibody from the mother's serum. Okay, may na-isolate sila na antibody from the mother's serum after the transfusion. So it was postulated that the fetus and the father possess a common factor which is lacking dun sa mother. That is why nagkaroon ngayon ng production of antibody dun sa serum ng mother. Okay? So, kaya nung nag-transfuse ng blood coming from the father, yung system ng mother identified or recognized the red cells of the father as something that is not a non-self, okay? Kasi nga wala naman, lacking siya dun sa mother. So it is recognized as non-self. That's why nagkaroon ng antibody production against that factor na present both sa fetus and the father. Okay? That's why nagkaroon ng acute hemolytic transfusion reaction despite na yung na-transfuse na blood dun sa mother is an ABO identical. Okay? So that is actually the inception of the discovery of your D antigen. Okay, so in 1940 class, Dr. Landsteiner and Weiner reported an antibody made by your guinea pigs and rabbits, okay, sorry, rabbits, when they are being transfused with your the RBCs of your rhesus monkey. Okay? So what nung nag-transfuse ng RBCs ng at galing from your rhesus monkey into these animals, your guinea pigs and your rabbits, they produce an antibody against it. So this antibody agglutinated 85% of your human RBCs, and they later named it as RH. Okay? And specifically anti-rhesus. Okay? Anti-rhesus, yung pangalan ng antibody na yon. But succeeding experiments class or succeeding studies found out that tawag dito, yung na-produce na antibody ng ating guinea pigs and rabbits when they are being transfused with the RBCs of your rhesus monkey is different from that of the antibody being produced by humans. Okay? So later on nung na-discover nila that while it is true na related yung both antibodies, they are actually not identical when it comes to genetic makeup. Okay, kasi magkaiba naman ang genetic makeup ng animals with that of the humans. So they may be similar but they are not identical. That is why later on, pinangalanan yung antibody produced by your guinea pigs and rabbits na originally pinangalanan as anti-rhesus, naging anti-LW na siya. Okay, naging anti-LW na siya. And then, yung antibody produced by humans, na-retain siya as anti-RH. Okay? RH. Tawag dito, anti-LW because of ito nga, kina Landsteiner and Weiner. Okay? In honor of those who first reported it, Landsteiner and Weiner. Okay? We will have a separate, actually last part, itong your anti-LW, okay? Or your LW antigen. Okay, by the mid-40s class, aside from the discovery of your D antigen in 1939, should I say, na-complete yung 5 principal RH antigens natin. We have the discovery of your big letter C antigen, small letter C antigen, big letter E antigen, and the small letter E antigen. And in 1993 class, Tippett discovered the true mode of RH inheritance using molecular diagnostics. So yung discovery ni Tippett class led now to the current theory of the inheritance of your RH antigens. Okay, so we will discuss it actually next na siya. Okay, so that's it for the brief history. So we will now proceed to genetics, biochemistry, and terminology. Let's have first the genetics. So we have here your RH genes. So as postulated by Tippett, the RH blood group system antigens are being encoded by 2 closely linked genes. These are your RHD and your RHCE, specifically on chromosome number 1. Can you still recall kung anong chromosome ang ABO? Ano? Your ABO genes? Kalimutan na nila. Ano?
Chromosome 9, ma'am.
Yes, it's chromosome number 9. So for your RH genes, we have here it is located on chromosome number 1. Okay, and in this chromosome number 1, we have two closely linked genes. We have the RHD and the RHCE. So this RHD class, yung RHD natin, it codes for the presence or absence of your RHD protein, okay, which is responsible for the expression of your D antigen on the red cells. Okay, and same is true with your gene RHCE, the second gene, which codes for either yung ating RH, this one. Nakakapagod ibig kasi. Okay? This either of these four proteins, okay, which is responsible now for the expression of your C and E antigens on the red cells. Okay. So we have here, aside from the two closely linked genes, which are your RHD and your RHCE, we also have your RHAG, your RAG, which is another gene, which is another important gene for the expression of your RH antigen. And it resides on chromosome, it is located on chromosome number 6. So what is this? What is the importance of this RAG? Okay, this RHAG antigen, gene. So the product of this gene is the protein called now your RH-associated glycoprotein. So this specific protein class is similar to the structure of your RH proteins, only that ang difference lang nila glycosylated siya. So may naka-attach na carbohydrates dun sa structure ng ating RHAG protein, in contrast to RH proteins na walang naka-attach na carbohydrate. Okay, so your RHAG is termed as a co-expressor. So kapag hindi na-inherit ang ating RHAG gene at kapag walang production ng ating RHAG protein, meaning hindi ma-express ang ating RH antigens. Naintindihan? Even if you have inherited your RHD and your RHCE, if walang na-inherit na RHAG na gene, walang expression ng ating RH antigens on the red cells. However, may note ako dito, you have to take note that your RHAG alone, okay, this protein alone does not express any RH antigens. So dapat ma-inherit natin both ang ating RH genes at ang itong tinatawag natin na RHAG gene. Do you understand? Guys, when I say RH genes, I'm talking about the RHD at RHC. Ito ha, I'm talking about itong dalawa. Intindihan nyo? The relationship of your RAG to your RH genes. Do you understand?
Yes po, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So your RHAG has been assigned as a separate blood group system siya class, and this is under nasa minor, I think. Nasa minor siya or either miscellaneous. Okay? We have a separate discussion, detailed discussion on RHAG. Binanggit ko lang siya dito in your RH kasi nga because of its importance in the expression of your RH antigens. Okay? Lagi niyong tatandaan na kapag walang RHAG protein, hindi ma-express ang ating RH antigens. Okay? Even if you have inherited the RH genes. Okay? So individuals who express no RH antigens on their RBCs are said to have the phenotype called now your RH now. Okay, and this will be discussed further as we go on with the discussion. Okay, we have the terms RH positive phenotypes. So RH genes are inherited. They are considered as a co-dominant, inherited as co-dominant alleles. Okay, equally inherited. Okay, as two the equal inheritance of two different alleles, or codominant inheritance. Okay? Na-recall nyo pa sa genetic principles? Your codominant inheritance. Okay? So Rh positive individuals inherit one or two RHD genes plus two, this one. You have to remember that. This is an important thing that you should remember. So in the inheritance of your RH, or inheritance of RH genes, we have an individual inherits one or two genes, and other than that, other than the RHD genes, we have the inheritance also of your two RH genes. Okay, so one or two RH genes plus RHD genes plus the inheritance of two RHCE genes. Okay, to express now your DCE antigens. So the inheritance of one or two RHD genes, which will now result in the expression of your D antigen on the red cells, and these individuals are being typed as Rh positive. But sabi ko kanina, in other sources, mas appropriate na ginagamit ang D positive. Okay? Kasi when we are talking about Rh positive, we are actually talking about specifically sa D antigen. So some sources, huwag kayong malilito pag Rh positive, but some textbooks would make use of D positive. Okay? So there's a note here. Your RHD gene determines the D antigen expression on the surface of your red cells. So your D negative individuals, they do not have genetic material at this site. So kapag D negative individual siya, wala siya, meaning wala siyang na-inherit na RHD gene. That's why walang na-express na D antigen on the red cell. Okay? So yung letter D, ma-encounter nyo later on in the succeeding parts of your notes na may nakalagay dyan na small letter D. Okay? So your small letter D class, I have to emphasize that your small letter D there does not mean na that is an antigen. Okay? There is no such thing as small letter D antigen. That small letter D is only used to denote now the absence of your D antigen. Naintindihan? Clear? Your D, small letter D is not an antigen, but it is only used to denote now the absence of your big letter D antigen. Okay? So sabi ko, in addition to the inheritance of one or two RHD genes, we also have the inheritance of your two RHCE genes, okay, from each of your parents. So the inheritance, yung inheritance pattern class, same with the inheritance of your ABO, okay, ABO genes. It follows the simple Mendelian principle, okay? Okay, here's a correction. This should be negative. Paki-correct sa notes ninyo. That should be Rh negative phenotypes. Are you still with me?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. So let's move now to the Rh negative phenotypes. So your Rh negative individual, should I say, can arise from at least three different mutations. Bakit may may mga RH negative individuals tayo. So number 1 is your the European ethnicity, okay? Ethnicity. So the common RH negative white individuals have a deletion of your RH gene. That is why walang na-express na RHD protein, and hence walang na-produce na D antigen or walang na-express na D antigen on the red cells. Okay? In your European ethnicity class, there is a deletion of your RHD gene. Okay? Wala silang RHD gene, but they have the two RHC genes. Okay? So they only express CE antigens, C and E yung apat, either depending kung ano ang na-express, anong na-encode na protein. But they do not have the expression of B antigen. Okay? In your African ethnicity naman, this is an unusual form of your RHD gene, which occurs as a RHD pseudogene, or this is denoted as RHD tapos psi na symbol. Okay? So in here, individuals having this RHD psi do not produce your RHD protein, hence walang production of your no expression of your D antigen on the surface or the red cell surface. Okay, so in your Asian ethnicity, we have what we call as your DEL, D tapos subscript EL. Okay, this is a mutation described in Asians, which alters now your RHD gene. My mutation on your RHD gene causing now the individual to type as D negative. Okay, there is a mutation in the RHD gene, causing now these individuals to type as D negative. So they cannot express, since there is a mutation on the RHD gene. Okay, there is no production of your RHD protein, hence no D antigen expression on the red cells. Okay. Dito sa African ethnicity class, may unusual form of your RHD gene, which is what we call as your pseudogene. Dito sa ating Asian ethnicity, there is a mutation, genetic mutation of your RHD gene. Okay, that's why both of this, itong mga individuals having these particular genes, they do not express your D antigen on the red cell surface. Okay. Okay. So dito class, figure 2-11, we have here an example of a normal pattern of your RH inheritance. So parang sa ano lang to, sa ABO, inheritance ng inyong ABO. So we have here the mother and the father, and these are their genotype. Okay, sorry. So we have the mating of this mother and father will now produce this particular phenotypes. So yung cross class parang sa ABO lang din. Okay? This one plus ito. This one plus this one. This one plus ito. And then this one plus ito. Okay? Nasundan nyo yung sa cursor. Parang sa ABO lang din. And then, so in here, kapag we have this particular genotypes of the parents, their offsprings would, yung offsprings, guys, would have at least 50% of them, actually 75% of them will type as D positive. Why? Because sabi natin, we have your presence of D positive. Sabi natin kasi we have the big letter D, the presence of your big letter D here. Okay? Ito lang ang hindi. No D antigen. That's why this individual will type as D negative. Kuha nyo? May mga examples ako mamaya na problem. Sasagutan natin. Okay?
Ma'am,
Yes.
dun po sa tatlong ethnicity, ma'am, yung RHD gene lang po ang may defect.
Yes. Yes.
RH
In the sources that I have read, they are they have not mentioned about RHCE. Actually, I have the same question while I am studying this particular lesson. No, wala silang binanggit regarding RHCE gene, if that is your question.
Opo, ma'am. Thank you po.
Yes, they are only pertaining to your RHD gene. Okay, let's move now to biochemistry. So the product of your RH genes are considered as non-glycosylated because no carbohydrates are being attached to the structure. So your RH antigens class, they reside on transmembrane proteins and they are considered as an integral part of your RBC membrane. So the gene products of your RHD and your RHCE, they are actually similar, okay? In that both of these genes, they encode for proteins which is composed of 416 amino acids that traverse your red cell membrane 12 times. Only that the protein products of these two genes differ only by 32 to 35 amino acids. So the amino acid position will determine now specifically the residue number 103 is important in determining the expression or the presence of your big letter C or small letter C antigen on the red cell. While the residue number 226 will differentiate now the presence or will determine now the presence or absence of your big letter E and small letter E antigen on the red cell. So, paano natin malalaman if the big letter C, small letter C, big letter E, or small letter E ang present dun sa ating dito, sa ating red cell. So we have here this table. Okay, so the presence of your big letter C class will be determined, sabi natin, by the residue number 103 and the presence of your serine, the amino acid serine in the residue number 103, 103 should I say. Okay, so the expression of your small letter C antigen is determined by the presence of your perline amino acid at the residue number 103. Okay, same is true with the expression of your big letter E antigen is determined by the presence of your perline amino acid, but on the residue number 226. Okay, and the presence of your small letter E antigen on the red cell membrane is determined by the presence of your alanine, specifically at the residue number 226. Okay. So The RHD and RHCE proteins are exclusively located on your red cell membrane, and they have the following functions. Number one, they maintain the structural integrity of your red cells, and they also act as cation transporters, specifically ammonia and carbon dioxide transporters. That is why, class, sa mga individuals having now your RH null phenotype, sabi natin kanina, your RH, yung brief introduction natin for the RH null phenotype kanina, no expression of your RH antigens. Okay, so these individuals, class, because they do not have RH antigens on the red cell surface, they have abnormal membrane integrity. Okay, they have abnormal red cell membrane integrity, and that is why yung red cells ng mga individuals having this particular phenotype has a decreased red cell survival. Okay, they have decreased red cell survival. Okay. Let's have now the terminology. Let's proceed now to the terminology. We have actually four terminologies. Two terminologies have genetic basis, while while the other two do not have. Okay, so first we have the Fisher race or the DCE terminology. Class, why do we this particular terminologies, specifically your Fisher race and your Weiner theory, they postulated different inheritance of your RH inheritance. They postulated different RH inheritance, but why is it na, di ba sabi ko kanina, the inheritance postulated or proposed by Tippett is yun yung current na fina-follow natin ngayon, na inheritance of your RH antigens. But why do we still need to discuss, or why do we still need to study itong theories postulated by Fisher race and Weiner? Why? Because they are important sa terminology ng ating mga RH antigens. Kasi later on, you have to convert. We are going to convert from Fisher race terminology. We will convert that to your Weiner terminology, to your Rosenfield terminology, and to your ISBT terminology. Okay? So yun yung importance. Okay? Why do we still have to study these other two theories on RH inheritance? So let's have first your Fisher race terminology. So Fisher and Race postulated that the antigens of the RH system are produced by three closely linked sets of your alleles. We have dito sa illustration. Saan na yun? This one. Okay. In your Fisher race class, they postulated that the inheritance of RH antigens in the RH system is due now to the inheritance of your three closely linked genes. We have the D gene, the CC gene, and the EE gene. So these genes now, class, each gene is actually responsible for the production of a gene product, which is the antigen, the expression of the antigen on the red cell. So that is the theory coming from Fisher and Race. Okay? So yan yung theory nila. So your D gene, class, your D gene is inherited at one locus. And same is true with your CC genes inherited at the second locus, and your EE gene, which is inherited at the third locus. Okay, so sabi ko, each gene was responsible for producing now a particular product, which is the antigen present or being expressed on the red cell surface. So each antigen class and the corresponding gene were given the same letter designation. In this particular terminology, the antigen and the gene, the corresponding gene is given the same letter designation. When we are referring to the gene that is italicized, pag hindi naka-italicize yung letter, we are referring to the antigen. Okay? So ito, for example, the gene that produces the C antigen is yung naka-italicize na, yung italic na C, letter C. Okay? So according to Fisher and Race, they named antigens of the system big letter D, this one, big letter C, small letter C, big letter E, and small letter E antigen. Sinama ko yung letter D dyan to denote now the absence of the D, is big letter D antigen. Okay, that is not, I have to reiterate that your, this letter, small letter D here, does not denote, does not stand for any particular antigen, but it is only used to denote now the absence, or yes, the absence of your D, is big letter D antigen. Okay. So the phenotype, we are talking about the antigens expressed on the red cells of a given RBC is defined now by the presence of these 5 principal RH antigens. Okay. So according to Fisher-Race theory, each person inherits a set of RH genes from each parent. Okay? Isang D or walang D, walang gene, wala na inherit. Yun yung letter that is denoted by small, tawag dito, the small letter D. Then isang malaking C or big, small letter C, and one big letter E or small letter E gene. Okay? Tig-isa. So each person will inherit isang set dun sa coming from the mother, then isang set din coming from the father. Okay? So, the combination now of maternal and paternal haplotype will determine now the genotype of that individual. And this will dictate now one's phenotype. So, class, napapansin ninyo that mas nauna yung D kesa dun sa E, hindi siya alphabetically arranged kasi nga according to Fisher and Race, the D, okay, the D locus lies the C locus lies between now the D and the E loci. Okay? So ang arrangement ng ating loci would be, or ang arrangement ng ating alleles ay first yung D gene, then second sa second locus we have the CC, okay, and the third would be your EE. Kaya ang arrangement ng ating ang reporting ng ating antigens would be DCE instead of your CDE. Okay? Kasi nga dahil daw sa arrangement, okay, yung pagkakasunod-sunod dun sa the arrangement of your locus. Okay? So the probable genotype for an RH or a D positive individual exhibiting a deletion phenotype, meaning it lacks your E, yung other 4 antigens. This will be written as ganito siya. Okay? So kung ano yung missing na antigen, that will be replaced as dash. Okay? So in here, dito, itong naka-highlight dito, that is the absence dito sa dito sa genotype na to. Ang ibig sabihin niyan is no EE genes. No EE antigens. Okay? Dito, wala ding EE antigens, and dito, no both CE, absence of your CE antigens. Okay? So kapag may missing na antigen, that will be denoted as dash. Okay? For your RH phenotype class, sabi natin, these individuals, this particular individuals do not express RH antigens on the RBCs, lahat. I'm talking about all the RH antigens, the D, C, and E. Okay? So it will be written as like this. Okay? That is deletion of all the genes. Okay? So that's why no RH antigens expressed on the RBCs. Next would be your RH mode phenotype. Your RH mode phenotype class, pag sinasabi, pag null, when we are talking about null, we are talking about expression of no expression of RH antigens on the red cells. Kapag mode, pag RH mode, weakened expression lang siya. There are RH antigens pero weakened yung expression nila. Okay? We will may separate discussion dyan. The RH null versus your RH mode phenotype.